Considering a move to McCall? Well, you might want to know about more than just the real estate market. What are the challenges that would affect your daily life? So stick with me for this video, and hopefully by the end you'll have a better idea of what it might be like to live in McCall, Idaho. As you can imagine, in a town of only 4,000 full-time residents, the job opportunities might be a little bit limited. Jobs up there are going to revolve around the service industry and tourism. Not to say that there aren't people that work up there and do their remote jobs, but because it's such a small population full-time, you don't find a whole lot of that going on up there. So if you're in the service industry, if you work in hospitality, if you work in restaurants, then there are opportunities up there. Same with tourism, seasonal type paths like ski instructors or fly fishing guides, etc. So there are definitely nature related jobs. There is the hospitality industry, which is both of those you're going to find opportunity. But if you are outside of that realm, then of course it's going to be a little bit limited. But it does give those who are connected to nature and want that flexibility of being a ski guide or the service industry where they can ski or go out on the lake during the mornings and then either give instruction or maybe work at a restaurant in the evenings. It gives them that flexibility to enjoy nature and be out in nature. The struggle there is that McCall can be kind of pricey when it comes to real estate, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So do those positions actually allow to afford the housing that is available in McCall? So to tie back into what I was just saying about housing being expensive and in some ways unaffordable for the industries, the employees that are up in the area, it can be tough because you have these lakefront properties or these huge mountain cabins or even just modest mountain cabins that are still rather pricey. So does it make it hard for those industry workers who can't afford? And then when you have these condos that are scattered throughout town, a lot of them are purchased by investors and then used as VRBOs, which again then sort of puts a crunch on the supply of houses available. A solution would be that you'd live outside of town. You'd live outside McCall. You could live in New Meadows. You could live in Tamarack, Donnelly, Cascade. You'd have a commute into McCall if you worked, but really, if you worked in a larger city, especially a major metropolitan city, you're gonna have to commute anyway. So you'd have traffic in that city. So maybe driving 30 minutes on a beautiful mountain road to get to work isn't such a bad thing. Thing to note about the high cost of living in McCall, though, if you did choose to purchase there, is that because it is a resort town and it has to have infrastructure in place for when it expands out to 20,000 people from the 4,000 people that are there like year round. So in order to do that, things like utilities, they have flat fees that are then assessed for each property. And then on top of that, you would have usage fees. And what the idea behind that is that it spreads out the cost even to those part-time residents. They are helping support that infrastructure even if they're not there year-round. So it just sort of spreads out that cost. It's not hitting all of the 4,000 residents that are there full-time. It's not making them incur the brunt of the infrastructure costs across utilities. You live in a resort town, so unfortunately there are going to be times during the year where the crowds are going to explode. So you go from 4,000 full-time residents, up to 20,000 people there over holiday weekends, especially during the summer, even if it's not a holiday weekend. Everybody's up there using Pay at Lake and enjoying the cute little town that McCall is. During winter, you have the influx of skiers and snowboarders and all of the other, I mean, you don't have to ski or snowboard in order to enjoy it up there. You have people that have snowmobiles. So all this to say that there is a huge influx of people during summer months and winter months. And then you have this super quiet sort of transition periods that would be, say, March and April, and then October, November before the holidays, that it would sort of quiet down and you'd get this lull. As far as the locals go, that's the whole reason why you're not getting tourists up there as well, because it might not be the ideal time to hit the lake, or perhaps the ski mountains aren't open yet. So yes, it's quieter for the locals, but it might be because there's less activity to do as well. One solution around that would be to plan your outdoor adventure activities if you live up in McCall, maybe during the weekdays, because then you don't have as many tourists up there. So there's always solutions and ways around it. And you would know, you'd be able to tell when the city is sort of expanding and you might want to curb what adventures you are going out to do, because you'd see the traffic and you'd notice the influx coming in. So you're choosing to live in a mountain city. And with that, there will be severe winter weather. Will you get snowed in for days and unable to get out to the store? Well, I guess it depends on where you live. Hopefully you're a little bit better prepared for that. But winters you can get a lot of snow in McCall, so you have to be prepared. So they will have the main roads cleared for sure, but depending on your neighborhood, you may not have a snowplow, a city snowplow that comes into your neighborhood to clear your road. So you're definitely going to need a vehicle that can, with snow tires or four-wheel drive, so that you can traverse that winter weather road. Obviously, there are things that you need to do in order to prepare your home for these crazy winters. You know, you might be tying up plants so that they don't get crushed by the heavy snow, you know, tarping over your AC unit so that it isn't crushed by snow. You're definitely going to want to keep your pipes running throughout the season. You will want to keep your heat at a minimum of somewhere between 62 or 65 degrees, even if you're not there, just to keep everything warm so that pipes aren't freezing. And there's just a little bit of different maintenance that goes along with maintaining a home during winter. And so if you're choosing to make McCall your next home, you'd want to do all of your due diligence on what exactly it means to live in a winter town. In a town like McCall, you are going to have limited healthcare facilities. It does have a hospital, a 15-bed hospital, and it has a 24-hour emergency room. And of course, physicians there and nurse practitioners, the medical community there is well educated on medical emergencies that could happen in rugged terrain or that type of surrounding. But for everyday problems or more severe health issues, you may have to come down into Boise in order to see specialists. And so that would require a 2-hour drive in order to see a doctor or have a medical procedure outside of a traditional something more traditional that you might have at a smaller hospital. So you definitely would have to consider whatever medical needs you would have. And even I've talked about this in other videos as well. Even with Boise, we have somewhat of a limited access to super specialists. So it may be something where you're going from McCall to the airport in Boise to fly to Seattle or LA or some other some other major city if you really had a super special medical condition that needed to be cared for where we didn't have the proper specialists here in Idaho already. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Erica Toffel, Global Real Estate Advisor with Group 1 Sotheby's International Realty. I specialize in helping you relocate to Boise, Idaho or McCall, Idaho. I can help with any of your real estate needs. So please reach out. My information is on the screen. And if you're watching on your television, you can scan the QR code to contact me directly. McCall is located 90 miles north of Eagle, probably about 110 miles north of Boise, depending on where you were driving from. So it's out of the way, and they have some major infrastructure. I mean, they have restaurants and grocery stores, like a huge Albertsons there. They have obviously your smaller community hospital. But if you're looking for major amenities, you know, the mall or a Costco, you're going to have to come down the hill into the Treasure Valley. So you're looking at probably a 2-hour commute in order to get to the Boise Mall or to get to the Meridian or Boise Costco. So it can be a little bit of a challenge getting around. And there are 2 ways into McCall if you're coming from the Boise area, and sometimes on Highway 55, if that gets blocked by an accident or a rock slide, then you definitely have to take the longer way down into the Treasure Valley. So then you may be looking at 2.5 or 3 hours worth of commute time in order to get to those major amenities. In McCall, you have the joint McCall-Donnelly School District, and that only is made up of 5 schools. It's less than 1,500 students that those 2 cities and this 1 school district service. So it's not a lot of students that are within the school district, which can limit your access to some educational programs, perhaps some athletics. It's a smaller pool for athletics and such. So then you may be limited on what activities or sports your child can play. Aside from that though, I mean, the school, they're very active in the community because it is such a small community. So in that respect, you definitely will know all the students in your children's school. You'll probably know the teachers very well from being out and about. But yes, you have a little bit of a limited school options just because it's a small area. Obviously, any resort town is dependent on the season and tourism. So for instance, this past year, it didn't snow. Like the ski mountains were supposed to open up as of Thanksgiving, so end of November, and it wasn't snowing. And so that pushed out the opening of the ski mountains, and that affects a lot of people because you have those that run the ski mountain, you have the restaurants that service the ski mountain, you have the ski instructors. So all of these employees and independent contractors, if you will, were having to kind of hang tight waiting for the snow to happen so that people would come up and you would get that influx of tourism. And so that can definitely affect the economy within the McCall area. And then this particular summer, you have heavy fires that are going on in our state and surrounding states, and it brings a heavy layer of smoke. And so that's sort of sitting over the Treasure Valley and even up into the mountains. And what ends up happening is that some of the tourists that would otherwise go up are staying home because of the poor air quality. And again, things like that affect the level of tourism that are coming through the town, and that it's the bottom line for the businesses, and that then affects their employees. So I'm curious, are there any deal breakers that I've mentioned so far where you'd be like, oh, absolutely not, I would not move to McCall because Erica mentioned this? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know. When living in a town where it has extreme weather, you're going to incur additional maintenance issues on any property. And I had mentioned this a little bit before when talking about the extreme weather, but some things to consider. If your driveway is asphalt, then your road will dry heave during the winter months. It may. And so you would get this expansion, cracks and stuff. So you'll have to seal your driveways more often. Ice is always an issue when it builds up on houses in rain gutters, etc. That can cause damage to the home. You will more regularly be maintaining your roof because you'll have, additional wear and tear from all the snow. Same with the siding, but then with the siding, it also comes, so many of these homes up there are stained because it's mountain cabins and such. And the sun exposure then during the summer can be so extreme that you sort of burn through your stain more frequently, which means that, again, you are maintaining that siding more often than you might in lower altitude or less severe weather conditions. You're going to have more wear and tear on your heating system. And then there are definitely particular issues around those heating systems. For example, on our cabin, we have a heating system, obviously, and on the roof there is something called a concentric vent, and it got blocked with snowpack because you can get a foot or more on top of your roof at any given time during the winter, and it blocked air circulation, and our furnace it just stopped working. And so that was something that we had to make sure that we maintained. We had to get up there and clear the snowpack so that it could breathe again, essentially. You'll also be tying up plants during or right before winter hits so that the snow that builds up around them isn't just crushing them. So this way, if you have twine that's holding them together, then they have a better chance of survival. Of course, with any home, you get through a season or two and you learn how to properly maintain these homes during winter. And you start to see that there are things that you may have to take care of a little bit more often than you would in other destinations or other locations. But you have a beautiful home in a beautiful setting, so sometimes it's a trade-off. McCall is a small town, so it doesn't have a real robust cultural scene, but it does have its sort of seasonal events like the winter carnival, and during the summer they'll have a few different cultural type events or festivals that you can attend. And once you get into the area and you're there, you're sort of immersed in what it means to live in McCall, then you learn about sort of these side events that aren't publicized, but that the community sort of puts on, and you really get to see that small town charm that is McCall. For more videos about Boise, Idaho, or McCall, Idaho, click on one of the other videos on the screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.